Hello everyone, my name is Kevin Luth. I'm a firefighter for the City of Waukesha Fire Department. We're a suburb just to the west of Milwaukee. And today we're going to talk a little bit about search and rescue and some of the primary search methods that were commonly talked about today. So obviously over the years there's been tons and tons of different search types that have been tried and tested, and many of them we still use today, but here are some of the main ones that we look to focus on. Anchored search, oriented search, split searches, vent enter isolate search, and then also large area searches, also known sometimes as like rope searches. Anchored search, typically these are used in low visibility areas. A firefighter will actually physically keep their hand, a foot, a tool, something anchored to a wall to help orient themselves as they're traveling through a structure and keep track of where they are. These searches are the ones I like to think about when we're talking firefighter 1, where we're showing up, entering, and then basing on what our objective is, whether we're looking for a seat of a fire or a known victim, we're going to determine if we're going to do a left-hand search or a right-hand search and proceed on searching those rooms. Some of the limitations are we're anchored to the wall, so we can only stretch out so far. So if it's a bigger room, getting to that center of the room is very difficult and sometimes missed. It also is very time consuming. But again, one of the searches that we will always continue to use. The next one is the oriented search. Typically this is used in mid to high visibility areas. It's just a much quicker search. Firefighters are using things like couches, chairs, windows, doors, things like that to help orient yourself to where you are in that room, passing into other rooms, things like that, making sure that you've covered those areas. One of the ways I like to kind of think about these oriented searches are tick-guided searches. So whoever that company officer is or whoever's using that thermal imaging camera for the day will actually help orient the crew and show them kind of the way to go or to check certain areas, avoid obstacles, things like that. Next one is split search. So a type of oriented search used in low smoke situations where partnered firefighters can actually split off and then search multiple rooms at one time. So this is very effective when you're trying to get things done real quickly. We need to get multiple bedrooms searched, things like that. I like to kind of think of one of these as a fire attack crew goes in, with the hand line, and they are able to get to the seat of the fire or the room of origin, get a knock on the fire, and then there's some bedrooms adjacent to that room, and while that nozzle firefighter kind of anchors down and protects that area, they're able to split off and search those adjacent rooms quickly. The next one is the vent enter isolate search. I feel like this has become a very popular topic, and for good reason. I think it's a very great tactic, but it is also one of the more dangerous ones as well. So it's a deliberate tactic for the immediate rescue of a known victim's or suspected victim's location. So this is one of those ones where we show up on scene, you're getting a report from someone in the front yard that my loved one's up in that second story bedroom and there's fire coming out the front door. So we take the ladder, we go around to the back of the building, say, and we put that ladder up to the window, we make entry, we isolate that room by closing the door, complete our search, hopefully rescue a victim or move them right away out that same way. These are ones where we think we show up and sometimes you would think it's a defensive fire, there's just a heavy amount of fire showing, but with this tactic we're now kind of able to proceed to get into some bedrooms, isolate them, and complete those searches of any of those survivable spaces that are still in that structure. So then the last one here is the large area search. Sometimes it's called rope searches. Things like rit rope are used to anchor to a point outside. We need to make sure that's a good anchor and that's not something that can move or that our rope's going to fall off of, because once we're in that structure and we lose our rope end, it kind of defeats the purpose and it's not going to give us that path to our exit. So dealing with large open spaces, there's not a lot of walls, and we want to cover that area pretty rapidly. We'll take that rope in. A lot of times there's knots on it, just like our hose line every 50 feet. We have that benchmark of how far we are into the building. And then we are able to actually have the other firefighters clip in with webbing, other ropes, and they can split out, creating a web-like structure, and we can pass through those large open areas. Even if we don't physically come across those victims with our hands, hopefully the rope gets snagged on them, we can go investigate what the rope snagged on and hopefully locate any of those potential victims. So obviously it's very important to select the appropriate technique for the situation you have on hand, the type of structure, size, construction, the occupancy. We were just talking about the rope searches. If we go to a large building, but then there's a lot of racking or storage inside there, that rope search might not be the most conducive for that environment. We're gonna end up getting snagged up on things and probably cause ourselves more mess than it's gonna be beneficial. Then you have to think about the objectives to be completed. Obviously, if we know there's a victim, that vent tender search is a perfect opportunity to utilize that. It's gonna be the fastest route to them potentially, and get that effected. And then the experience of the crew, I like to kind of think about this one when we talk about those split searches. It's gonna be up to that crew and that company officer's comfort level with those members, whether or not he's gonna feel comfortable splitting off. You know, if you have two real new, inexperienced guys, splitting them off to search rooms might not give that company officer the best comfort level. So a lot of training and everything obviously goes into all these different types. So the last thing is just, why do we search? Of course, it's part of our job, right? We put out fires and we do search and rescue. But one of the big things that's been brought up a lot lately is the survivable spaces. We kind of talked about it with the vent enter isolate search. There's been numerous occasions now where they're finding that there are these survivable spaces even in structures where it appears that it's too heavily involved in fire to survive. But it just proves the importance that we're getting these searches done. Even if we can't immediately do it, we have to put some fire out, whatever the case may be, but it is extremely important. So obviously there's tons and tons you could talk about on all these topics. You could do each presentation on each one individually, but just wanted to kind of brief over some of them. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you for your time.